We're here in the Notch podcast room with fellow and principal software engineer Darko Špoljarić, and we're going to be talking about app modernization and what goes into it, and what are some of the main strategies to use when modernizing your legacy applications. Darko.
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, so application modernization is one of the services that we provide to our customers, and it is one of the services that is enhancing the business capabilities of the system you already have. Let's open this up a little bit by why would you want to modernize something? So let's take a deeper dive. First off, we want to start from the business side. We don't modernize just for the sake of modernization. We never do that. We need to have valid reason to modernize. And there are a couple of business reasons, there are technical reasons for modernization as well. But the business reasons are the ones we start with. So, we want to modernize something. Well, you obviously want to modernize something that is not aligned with your business processes anymore. So if it's not aligned with your business processes, if the system starts to go astray, if your business evolves in one way, but the product is trying to keep you in the old lane, so to speak, then it's probably time to modernize stuff. Maybe it's not just one project or one application, maybe there's multiple ones. So that's the first thing, business processes. Your user base, maybe you've decided to pivot. Maybe you've decided to also switch lanes with regards to users. Or your users have evolved, your user base has evolved, and you suddenly want to cater to them in a different way. That's also one of the reasons that justifies taking a look at the product and taking a look if it's a good match for your user base. That's another thing. And those are the two main categories, like business processes. Many times you're building an application just for your own user base, like for a Belgian customer that we've built on the Belcar. They're not building an application for the wider market, so it's not free to use online and you just pay a subscription and off you go, like Netflix or whatever. It's a business application, like most of what we actually do. The business application is for their employees and the employees of their partners. And a lot of applications are like that. So really, let's put it like closed user base. They are evolving more slowly. An application you would put online for free, those kinds of applications evolve faster, the user base, because the civilian world moves faster than the business world, as I'd like to think, right? And it's rooted in reality. That's just what the fruit of my imagination.
Business processes will move at a slower pace than customer habits.
Exactly, yeah. But business processes change in companies. Mergers happen, reorgs happen in companies. There are optimization initiatives in the companies as well. Companies decide to chase new business lines. Stuff changes inside the companies.
Business happens.
No company is static. It justifies, when those changes happen inside the organization, it is a justification for application modernization. Because you don't want your system that is custom written for you to slow you down. It's supposed to speed you up.
Absolutely.
And it's a no-brainer. So when you get a signal from your user that your system is slowing you down, then it's a very, very big green flag. Go for it.
Yep.
Go for the modernization. The second side is the technical side. Technical side, when I'm talking about technical side, I'm talking about not just the back-end code, not just about something that an average user doesn't see. I'm talking about the user interface as well. Now, user interfaces also have to evolve according to the model of the application that the users have in their heads. Because imagine, for example, an iPhone, your phone. We were using these things in a very different fashion 10 years ago. The more you use something, the more you change the way in how you use it. It doesn't stand for every living thing, like you use a knife in one way and in one way only through the...
Or in one way.
Yeah, in can opener in one way for your entire life. The software systems are not like that. It's not just a simple shovel or a simple screwdriver. There are many facets to it. The way you use it evolves. One of the things that evolves is the design of the applications, or to put it in concrete terms, the ergonomics of the application. Design systems of the applications of today was nowhere near where it was 10 years ago, because people that are researching ergonomics, accessibility, have their insights, have their data, record how the users behave. Like recording of user behavior has grew tremendously over 15 years. 15 years ago, we were just speculating at how users behave.
Best guess.
Yeah. You had the buttons here, you had the form fields there, you click on submit and off you go. We were thinking, yeah, there's the form. You fill it up, submit it, done. Nowadays,
take the steps.
Yeah, just take the steps. We weren't really asking them.
We were asking them to take the steps.
What we really needed.
Yeah, we were asking them to take steps when they wanted an elevator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Asking them to take steps when they wanted an elevator. Now we're living in a different day and age. We really want our users to be happy with our applications. Not just happy. I mean, you can get happiness by buying someone a beer.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not something we're going to do to our users. You want them to be happy by them being productive and efficient. Those are the things to happiness. You don't want a user that's going to log into your application and it's going to
just hate using it. Slow down the workday.
Yeah, you don't want to log into a system that's going to spend your time needlessly.
You want to log into a system that will enhance the time you spend in it.
And you want to, most users I know, want to shrink, lower the amount, decrease the amount of time they spend in your application. Because they have work to do. Browsing through your application, many times not their work. Log in, clickety click, done, do something else. So we want to focus for productivity. And increased productivity requires good design, requires good ergonomics. And you don't want your application to be like vastly different from most of the other applications out there. It's just very, very bad practice. Bad ergonomics. You don't want the OK button to be like in the left top corner.
Yeah.
No one puts the OK button in the left top corner. Same goes for many other usability aspects. So that's the user interface redesign, and system is going to benefit. The users are going to benefit from that redesign tremendously if we do it right. Because we are very, very obsessed with tracking users, how they behave. The technical word is an anthropologist. Basically, it means looking what the user does over their shoulder.
Spectating,
observing, in silence. Do this. And learning.
That's
of course. Yeah, absolutely. Asking them, okay, why did you do that? Why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why did you do this that way? What did you think when you saw that? What was your first knee-jerk reaction when you saw this? That's how you get to know the user. Not everything has to be backed up by data, because like pauses in user interaction could mean a couple of things. Could mean that the user is thinking, could be that the user has switched to tab or went to the bathroom.
There could be just data black holes where we have no idea what happened.
Exactly, yeah. One has to accommodate for that, and the real world user interviews, person-on-person, one-on-ones, these are irreplaceable. But these are happening. We do those, and it's one of the key ingredients in the recipe. Of making a good application. That's user side. The technical side is equally as important, because the way the backend is written, the back is how the code is written, the thing that the users don't see, is very important. Because ultimately, if it's clean, if it's decoupled, if it's well structured, then it increases the option value of your software, of the product. And the option value is how frequently and how much can you change the software in the future and not take a lot of time. Because changes are always possible in a software product. It's just a matter of how long they take, how much effort, how much time. And you want that time to be as low as possible all the time. You can only get that if you have a well-structured, well-factored product. If it's clean. If it's not clean, the speed will go down. You will start to become very, very unhappy with the product. The users will start asking stuff that have asked for half a year ago or a year ago, and they will simply
they'll find an application that has that.
Yeah, in business environments, users won't rage quit.
No.
But they will disengage.
Over time, yeah.
And they will get frustrated,
They'll
frustrated
churn
with your
and-
product. Ultimately, it will come with a much larger delay than when you're building an applications for civilians. In Netflix, you'll just cancel your subscription, and you'll probably never tell them why you did so, right? In business application, doesn't go that way because people are most of the time, it's an ugly word, but forced to use their product. So it doesn't go that way, but it doesn't mean that we can just ship whatever and look the other way. Because it's essentially what it boils down to is productivity. You want your users to be productive. You want them to be efficient. You want them to be effective. Those are the things in business. And none of that will happen if you don't have a well-factored product that you can't change, because we're not building hardware, we're building software. We have to build something that we're able to change.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to change it indefinitely, not just for the next 2 years, and then throw it in the trash and do another round of modernization. Because when we modernize stuff, it's so that we increase the changeability of the product. That's the paramount thing. Because there's no point in modernizing software every 5 years. Absolutely no point. The software needs to evolve. The software needs to track the user behavior. It has to track business needs. Now, rarely any business changes so much. It happens. Startups pivot. Large companies build their internal startups. But I haven't heard of a bank that stopped being a bank, or I haven't heard of a bank that just stopped doing transactions.
Yeah. Core businesses stay
Core
core.
businesses stay core. There are parts of the business that change more. There are parts of the business that change less. And typically when you do a custom software, do it for the parts of the business that are creating stable revenue, that are catering to the business line that is strategic to your company, and that you really want to have in a top-notch state, customized, tailor-fit, and you want to be very, very happy with it. Right? For everything else, you use off-the-shelf parts.
Yeah. Just plug and play and hope for the best.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So what we do, we'll meet a customer. When we see an existing system, we will look at all the aspects. We will look at all the aspects, and we're not just gonna blindly suggest, you need to re-architect everything, throw away in the trash can and start from scratch. Definitely not, because there is wisdom in the existing system that we want to extract, that we want to keep. The knowledge that is behind the system that's been built, and we want to keep the parts of the system that are actually increasing your users' productivity. It's paramount. Productivity. Productivity. I don't know how many times I've said it, but that's the goal.
Aim of the game the entire
The
time.
aim of the game, yeah. We all use business software as well. And sometimes, for example, internet banking. There was a point in 2010s when, at least in Croatia, where a lot of banks were modernizing their software, and there wasn't a single living user that didn't hate it. Why did you change that? Young and old, all generations. It was a generational unification. They modernized it just for the sake of modernizing. Don't do that. We don't do that. That's burning money.
For trouble.
It's asking for trouble. Because the existing system that a lot of our customers have, there's a lot of good in them. But if the system was developed like a jungle, if it wasn't developed in a clean fashion, then it probably has come to a point where every change is expensive as hell. And that's, at that point, you need to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Yeah. Right? Then you have to do something. What we do usually is when the existing system is of strategic importance and it cannot have any downtime, we'll see what the future architecture would suit the product best, depending on the size of the product, depending on the business processes it has within it. Right? Many times it makes sense to go with microservices architectural pattern. Many times it just pays off to stay with the model. And in either of these, we will start working on decoupling stuff internally, cleaning up in human terms. The cleanup will revolve around reducing coupling internally, revolve around increasing cohesion. We will typically write many new test cases. Automation is something that's basically non-existent in a very coupled system. Tests are very hard to write in spaghetti code. When you have spaghetti code, all you can do is put more sauce to it. You cannot make it nice.
Yeah.
right? And this is something that we will do. So reducing coupling, increasing cohesion, write test cases to aid all the efforts, and we mop the floor, clean stuff. I mean, when you clean stuff, you have 1,000 little things to clean, basically. So we will scatter around, clean this and clean that. If we decide that it's worth it, it's never a question with a clear answer. Yeah, you can get a part of that answer when you talk about business processes, when you talk about the features. Because when you talk about the features, you kind of get a glimpse of complexity that's behind the system, and you kind of get the glimpse of how coupled it is. If it's all orthogonal and perpendicular with regards to features, if the features are nicely laid out, then there's a high probability that the code is like that as well. High probability. So a good chance, not so high probability. It all depends on what the developers did, right? But there is a chance that the code behind it is nicely decoupled, because the features are basically, you're looking at the tip of the iceberg, right? Actually, there's a better way of saying it. You're looking at a projection of the internal structure. Okay. One part. Because a projection, a profile, so to speak. There are many profiles too.
But it's basically a sample of how everything else could
be built.
Okay.
Yeah. So you get a glimpse of that just by talking to the business people. Ultimately, you want to see the code. You need to see the code. There's no way around it, right? But the first conversations that we will have with you is about the business features, about the features of the products, how tangled they are, how related they are one to each other, and we'll start from that. Okay. And the code comes next.
What happens with the code?
What happens with the code? So in some cases we decide, it's just not worth it. We need to rewrite certain parts or everything. We rarely suggest to rewrite everything. It is the most risky strategy.
It's basically rebuilding from nothing.
Rebuilding from scratch.
Sure.
Yeah. When sometimes it's not a bad strategy, although it's the most riskiest one. If you leave the old product that you have up and running, catering to the existing user base.
And then just hot swap it out.
And then hot swap it. What we like to do is just to gradually phase out the old system. We can do with a wide array of strategies. The most notable one being this user group now doesn't work in the old system, it works in the new system. Or certain features are disabled in the old system that are now enabled in the new system. So you're either moving user groups or features.
Okay, that makes sense.
Those are
It's easier to move parts of the herd than have a stampede.
Exactly. Yeah. So we build in an incremental fashion. We're not gonna take your requirements, go back to our company, close the doors, and emerge one year later with a brand new product.
Yeah, that won't work.
It doesn't work. It has been proven that it doesn't work. Right? Certain pieces of the application gets left behind, certain user requirements get lost, trade-offs happen. If you turn a blind eye to feedback, you're done. It's a failure.
Yeah.
Right? You have to acknowledge that. It's a matter of fact. It's not something that's debatable nowadays.
It's not guessing. It's been proven. People have done this, and it did not work well.
It did not work. And switching users from an old system to a new system, so the architecture of the system is actually kind of aligned with that fact. What we will do is rewrite parts of the old system as we are migrating parts of the users or parts of the feature. Definitely we're going to have significant uptime of both systems. We're going to have an overlap, right? And then at one point when you're happy with the new system, when you say that you're that all is well, shut down the old system and continue with the new. Now there are synchronizations between the old system and the new system that will need to happen. We will do some kind of integration between those two systems data-wise, so that if you've done something in the old system, that the new system will see the data. So we will see what's the best strategy to do it, right? Sometimes it's a bit more complicated to have production data in both systems, but it's very, very doable.
Okay. One of the things that I came across when I was researching a recent article were the 7 R's.
7 R's, yeah.
Are there 7? Are all 7 really recommendable strategies? What should people focus on once they have an idea of the technical and the business side?
Yeah, so all 7 R's are valid approaches. It really depends on what the client has and what the client needs. No two needs are the same. Every system modernization that we've done is a unique situation. No two are alike. But a lot of the systems that have been built like 10 years ago, 10 years and earlier, a lot of them suffer from bad UI, bad ergonomics. The state of development is, so our industry, many times, whether we like to admit it, driven in a waterfall way. Still, the agile way of development, iterative way of development with asking users for feedback is still not where we want it to be, still not where we need it to be. The learning is there, but people, product managers, project managers, executives, many of them still have the wrong view when building software. Building software is not like building a house. You cannot change the layout of the house once you have the walls, right? It just doesn't work. I mean, it does work. You can get it with a sledgehammer, but there are costs to it. There are material costs, there are time costs. The material costs are very, very high, right? And you have waste.
Yeah.
With code, you don't have waste. You can modify it. It's like working with water. You're not working with concrete, right? And people have this thing when you have to, I mean, you obviously do have to think ahead before you build a product. You have to have a clear vision. It's one of the mandatory things you need to have. And you have to have some leeway and a room for decision making later, right? Room for acknowledging user feedback. That's something you have to have. But to get to my original point, even today, a lot of the software, I'm not going to say most, is written in a waterfall-y way. People have sprints, yes, but the scope is determined at the very beginning. And it's not a good way to do. You need to think ahead, absolutely, but don't set the scope in detail right at the beginning and then do sprints. It doesn't work.
So when talking about app modernization strategies, we often come across the several R's. Not all of them are always necessarily applicable. Which ones are the ones you think organizations should focus on when beginning the app modernization journey?
Yeah. So I think there's about 6 or 7 of them, and we rarely use just one. So these are just to paint the landscape of options. It's not a pick and choose just one. There's re-platforming, re-hosting for starters, which is about giving your application a stronger host, doing something with resources that are underneath the application, potentially changing, well, any aspect of the middleware, the application server, upgrading the database version, stuff like that. Those are very minimal changes. Some people call it returning the technical debt, but it's not really. The second one is a little bit more encompassing, which is migrating the application up to the cloud. So containerizing the application and then moving it either to a hosted cloud or a managed cloud, whatever you have in your company, right? We can deploy it to AWS, Azure, GCP, or a cloud of your own if you wish so. So we don't really have any preferences, it's up to you. The cost is the biggest factor here, the biggest differentiator. And companies already have their own preferences. We are going to really suggest, I can't remember a single case where we actually recommended moving to AWS or something, right? If the customer had its own premises, had its own cloud infrastructure, which is rare these days, but there are clients that are maintaining their own cloud environments. And then re-engineering, re-architecting, refactoring options. Those are all kind of things that go hand in hand. You will rarely refactor without re-architecting at least some parts of the system. Re-architecting will pull refactoring of certain parts into the big picture. And re-engineering is, I would say that re-engineering is an umbrella term basically for those two approaches. It's almost never a one single, or it's mostly a combination of them, right?
Okay.
The bigger the effort, the more the R's.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, you're obviously going to have to pull in multiple strategies just to make something as complex as that work, and
it's always a tailor-made approach.
Yeah, exactly. So
absolutely, every time it's a tailor-made approach. We will never come and say, here's a package for you, and off we go. Mm-hmm. Right? We're gonna do it and then run away, because it's never gonna result with the optimal solution.
Yeah.
It's just something that's like not good to do. But I mean, if you read our site, if you read our blogs, you're gonna see an enumerated list of ours. So just so you know.
All right. Well, thank you for the insights. This is massively eye-opening.
Very glad.
All right. And that was application modernization strategy, and basically everything about application modernization. Thank you, Darko, for your insights. Hugely valuable. So yeah, check out our description and click on over to our website, wearenotch.com. And while you're there, visit our blog, read up on more like this. Until next time, we are Notch. Take care.